I have these friends, Dan and Sheila. They're podcast hosts.
Welcome to Profiling Criminal Minds. I'm Dan.
And I'm Dr. Redmond.
And we're joined once again by our very special guest, Breen Frazier, head writer and co-executive producer of Criminal Minds.
Woo!
Yay!
It is so good to be back, you guys. It feels so good. I can't believe how much I have missed you and feeding you stuff. But I have to say, we finished wrapping the season in August.
Oh, wow.
And then there was some post-production stuff. And then we started the season 20 writer's room early. And so I had to get ready for this podcast, this interview. I had to go back and be like, wait, what did we do last season? What did we do last year versus what we're doing this year? And what are we talking about? So I'm up to speed. But now, because we're recording this on Sunday, May 24th, I have to be doubly careful and not reveal anything and not spoil anything because I will get fired and I can't afford to do that. So I can't wait to talk to you in the most coded way possible and hint at stuff, but reveal nothing. That's my agenda.
Oh, that's going to be the best, especially because, and I think this is one thing we can reveal, you are currently filming season 20.
Yes, we are filming season 20. We are probably, I think we're about halfway through the 20 weeks of the writer's room that we are contractually obligated to have with a full staff. And we just finished the first week of shooting episode 1. Episode 2 will start on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then it's just, full steam ahead. But we're in really good shape creatively. I mean, that's one of the things that we have figured out with Evolution is that 10 episodes is a lot easier to stay ahead of than 22 episodes or 24 episodes. It's even easier to pull the plug and rewrite an entire season as we did in season 17. We did not have to do that in season 19, I'm pleased to say. Season 19, I think, was the smoothest of all the seasons, creatively, production-wise, and I think there's a confidence in the storytelling that you guys are going to be able to pick up on. But that's work for you guys to do critically, not for me to do emotionally.
Well, actually, that brings us to our first question, which is, you're kind of in the swing of things now. So what lessons did you learn from season 18, and even if there's something from 17 and 16, that you took into when you were producing season 19? Like, what did you say, okay, we're not going to do that again, or that really worked, let's absolutely drill down on that this time?
Absolutely. Okay. To answer that question, I do have to go all the way back to season 16, because season 16 sort of set the template that we've either been reacting against or trying to go back toward or trying to figure out a way around. And the great thing about season 16 is you had 10 episodes that were all interconnected. There was a case of the week, but it was all part of the same network. And that was such just a classic storytelling structure because you could follow link by link in the chain up to the finale and still be incredibly satisfied. The theme matched what the characters were going through. What the characters were going through was then we could serialize that because the stories were ongoing. It just was the perfect blend of plot and character, as far as I'm concerned. Season 17, we went even more serialized. And according to the fans, maybe too much serialization. And I totally hear that criticism. But as I've said to you, I believe on this podcast, we also did fun stuff with character that we could never have done otherwise. And so I will always think of season 17 fondly with the character work, if not the conspiracy theory work. Season 18, we purposely took a lighter hand with the interconnected stories. And I think you felt that as you guys were watching the episodes. On the other hand, we said, how can we take a heavier hand with the characters? Because now we're starting to want to dig into these characters. And that's where you get stories like Will dying. That's where you get stories like, Tara and Rebecca, deciding to get married, just all that great stuff. So season 19, we basically said, okay, we've shown that we can do really good character work while still maintaining a strong case of the week, or as our director of photography, Anthony Pietro, calls it, the freak of the week. So if we can do that, can we still tell stories about our team that you care about? And as I told you guys before, I think, The challenge, as it has been since the beginning of the series back on the CBS days, is how do you do this in a way where serial killers are the black hole of storytelling? How do you tell stories about these characters where, for God's sakes, there's a girl at a well somewhere and you have to catch the girl in the well. And that was complicated even more when you have a character like Voight, because the lesson that we have learned over 3 seasons is, what the hell are we going to do with Voight this season? How do we make him an important part of the story, either as his own self-contained B story or thematically resonant with the A story or integrated with the A story? And this year, I think we really liberated ourselves from Voight. And what I mean by that is he's still a very important part of the show, but he doesn't control the narrative. He's around. He has a very important role to play. But so much of season 16 through 18 was, we are going to reveal the team's character through what Voight does, right? And we challenged ourselves to move beyond that. What we've been able to build on with season 19 is that we've had 3 seasons of evolution to plant these tentpoles with the characters, right? So now, thanks to whether it was through Voight or through Holly and through the Voight's family or otherwise, we now have stuff about these characters that is as big a black hole as the case of the week. So whether that's Rossi struggling with his wife's death or struggling with the PTSD of getting locked up by Voight, whether it's JJ managing her grief after Will dying, whether Tara falling in and out of love and then getting shot in between and deciding to get married, Voight in the process has become right-sized. He no longer dominates the team's focus. So we can find in season 19 smaller but just as powerful stories based on what we created. So Rossi manages his PTSD in a different way this season. JJ enters a new stage of grief following the death of Will this season. And Voight continues to reveal more about himself. And I'm really proud of how we've been able to keep peeling the onion of this character. That's a big credit to Zach and his performance. But he's the kind of actor, I can say this about the entire cast. They are the kind of actors that you want to write for. But you take someone like Zach Gilford and you put him in a cage, somehow he becomes more interesting. So that is, how we were able to take what we've learned over the past 3 years and really drill down into season 19. I'd say, to give you a short answer to a long answer to a short question, that's what we've been able to do, is drill down with what we've learned on over 3 seasons.
That's fantastic to hear. And speaking of like this season, you've taken all that knowledge, you're adapting it. What themes are you focused on this year? What kind of story are you trying to tell?
It's hard to, because Voight is not as dominant. The season is not as focused as the team has to take down the head of a serial killing network, which that's where episodes 9 and 10 are going to take you. Or the team has to take down two conspiracy theory driven unsubs, and that's where the season's going to take you. It's a little, our approach is a little bit more scattershot than that. But when I think of what unites the episodes, I think of the scene that Prentice had with Tyler on the jet in season 18, actually, where she said, nobody really understands what this job is about. This job is about loss. And I honestly feel that all of evolution has been an exploration of that theme. Now, there's nothing like revolutionary about loss as a theme. Like all of storytelling is a struggle between some sort of victory and some sort of defeat, right? That's just narrative. But when a show is about serial killers, there are dark, sad, scary emotions that you have to engage with. You have to engage with death, obviously. You have to engage with grief. You have to engage with depression. But when the show was in its CBS run, we never dealt with the ongoing fallout of those emotions. The promise of the CBS show was, we're going to take you into the dark, we're going to scare you, and we're going to bring you out to the other side basically unchanged because our heroes are so good at their jobs. It's like a roller coaster or a haunted house ride. But what evolution has done, and again, I'm thrilled that we've been able to accomplish this, is to say, we're going to take you into the dark and we're going to bring you out the other side, but you're not going to be unchanged anymore. you're going to be very changed. And when I say you, I mean the audience, but I'm talking about, how do I put this? Like the audience surrogacy through the characters on the show. In the CBS version, we all aspire to the heroism of Hotch. We all aspire to the humor of Garcia. We all aspire to the intelligence of Reed. But the real identification on just a pure catharsis level was almost always with the victim or the victims of the week, right? So, that's why when we were in the writer's room, we went out of our way to go, who is this unsub killing and why am I scared for them? I told you guys before, like somebody's killing stockbrokers because they're cheating the stock market. That's never going to be a Criminal Minds episode because you're like, good, kill the stockbrokers. We don't care about them, right? But if a family member cries in Act 2 because their husband or their daughter has died in Act 1, that's an easy button to push to get you to cry. And then when Hotch or Reed or even sometimes Garcia rescued them, you felt like, everything's going to be okay. With Evolution, we're still dealing with loss, but we're dealing with it from the main character's point of view. And we don't treat that loss in a facile way anymore. So take JJ and Will, what we did last season with what we did this season. On the CBS version, it would have been like, hey, JJ, Will die, but don't worry, you'll find love in the next episode. And we really did not want to do that. The idea of loss and how our team copes with it on an episode to episode basis is more at the forefront of every episode. But, and I just really want to stress this, not in a way where it feels like we're just sucker punching the audience every episode. We know those shows where it just feels like, oh my God, you're just torturing me by making our main characters suffer. You could argue that that's exactly what I did with Reed, and I will say, yes, I'm guilty of that. But what we wanted to do was deal with this loss in a way that's character focused. So we were constantly asking ourselves the question in the writer's room, how would this character who you have come to watch for this long deal with this tragedy? And JJ is just the easy go-to because so much of her, just AJ's performance was so grounded and centered and powerful last season. But, she suffered this devastating death with Will's, sudden passing. Now, and last season was just, how does she keep her head above water? How does she show up to work every day? How does she investigate a case when she's still clearly grieving? Now she's coping with the ripple effects, and the ripples are not as big, but they're still powerful. They still surprise her sometimes. And even though we hated saying goodbye to Josh Stewart, we hated it. When we thought about what that would do for JJ, when we thought about what we could show you about her, we got super excited. There is a scene in the first episode of season 19 that has nothing to do with the unsub. It is a personal, wordless scene with JJ. And if you're not moved by this scene, I cannot help you. I don't know what else we can do to make you happy or to satisfy you as a long-term viewer, because we get to do things with these characters that feel true to the history and yet advance them in terms of where they are. And, now take JJ and multiply that by 6, 7, 8 cast members. Every episode we wanted to try to find something that revealed the team's character in this way, and our fans and sometimes our executives who are our biggest fans of the show, they ask, can't you do it through humor or joy every now and then? Can't you find something that's like a little lighter? And yeah, thank you, Sheila. And again, I go back to the show is about serial killers. This is kind of the direction that we have to go in.
People know what they're here for.
Exactly.
Welcome to my life.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. Game recognizes game, right, Sheila?
Oh, so true.
In 1902, I came up with an arc. I kick off an arc with Alves, and some crew guys came up to me before we started shooting, right? And these crew guys, they read the scripts, and for them, it's just the day's work. It's a blueprint. And they came up to me and they said, I read the script. I'm never scared. I don't get upset. I just read the scripts. But when I read your script, I was very affected. Affected. And, to have big burly grips come up and tell me that's like a drug to me. I want to chase that all season. Now, when you guys watch this episode, I am very curious how you are going to react. You might love it. You might shake your fist at the screen in frustration. But we're trying. We're really taking some swings this season. And all that having been said, thank you for letting me go off on this. I do want to stress there are definitely pockets of joy, probably more this season than the previous 3 seasons combined. Oh. One of my favorite scenes in the original run was when Gideon and Hotch were watching silent movies. I think it was Charlie Chaplin movies, I think. Yeah. We have a lot of moments like that this season. We really, really tried to dig those out as much as we could. And I honestly can't go into more detail than that without spoiling it. But all I can tell you is episode 9, which I was able to co-write with Ryan McGonigal, is one of the favorite things I've ever done on this show. And it starts just with the title of the episode. When you guys see the title, it's going to make a contingent of nerdy fans of this show, including this Zoom call, very happy. Okay. So thematically, that answer was a shotgun because the themes are sort of a shotgun approach. But I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Oh, that's fantastic. And obviously we can't wait either.
You're so excited this season.
I really am.
I am. I wasn't sure if you're talking to me or you're talking to Dan.
I was talking to you, Breen,
yes.
but Dan,
I cannot wait. But then again, I got the poster. So. You know what I wanted most, and you gave it to me. So
I sure did. Yep.
I'm not going to complain.
Well, we have to explain. We have to explain this. We have to explain this for the audience. So there was a prop from our set, and it's a poster with Paul F. Tompkins' face on it, and as fans of Paul F. Tompkins, his character on the show and his comedy, I just thought that is perfect for Dan and Sheila. And so I was able to send it to you guys along with some other swag. And you know, it's Paul is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything that he is part of the season. But I just felt like, this has Dan and Sheila written all over it. So I'm glad you guys were able to put it to good use.
Well, I mean, that brings us as a perfect segue to our next question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about the guest stars this year? We know Paul F. Tompkins is back, but who else can we expect to see? And, what did you do with him?
Well, he's not going to tell us.
I know he's not going to tell us what he can do.
This is where...
We don't want him fired, Daniel.
It's true.
This is where I have to tread very carefully. Okay. Very carefully. This is what I can tell you. I can tell you that in episode 1, Jerry Ryan, who played 7 of 9 from Voyager, is in this episode and is excellent. Is moving and so many of these great character actors, whether they're Star Trek actors, ER actors, Law and Order actors, you give them something and then you watch them just like make a meal out of it, make a life out of it, create a fully realized character out of it. And that's what Jerry Ryan was able to do. I mean, she's the emotional heart of the episode. In 1902, Paula Tompkins returns. I just want to say that his presence is not a commentary on the two of you,
of course,
or any of the fabulous Criminal Minds podcasts that are out there. It is a commentary on true crime podcasts. And Paul just became the perfect vehicle for us to build out his character, but also reflect a little bit of just the reality that we're going through. True crime podcasts are a thing. True crime podcasts get a lot of attention. And sometimes true crime podcasts solve crimes. So we felt like this was a way for us to sort of introduce that idea. A small comedy fan note in episode 2, an actress named Meredith Salinger is on the show. And Meredith Salinger is known for being the star of the Disney 1980s classic Disney live action film, The Journey of Natty Gann. Oh. And she's Patton Oswalt's wife. And she does a podcast with him. Or she did. I don't think she does it anymore. Okay. But it was great. She was just a lovely, delightful person. Okay. Now, hang on. I'm obviously not talking about the elephant in the room. Yes, Connor Story from Heated Rivalry is on the show. I can say that he is on multiple episodes.
Okay.
I can say that he plays a very important role. I cannot tell you who he is or what he is doing. I can tell you that he will surprise you and you're going to go on a journey with him. But he is nothing like his heated rivalry character. And I say that because like, I remember when I was a kid and I'd be like, Harrison Ford, I'll see anything Harrison Ford is in. And then I saw The Mosquito Coast. And I was like, I don't want to see that Harrison. I don't want to see that Harrison Ford. That Harrison Ford is depressing. And this is, his character is very good and very engaging. It's just nothing like heated rivalry. So I don't want the stands to come after me and say, what did you do to my beloved Connor Story? We've traded, Dan and I have traded some emails and talked about stuff. And I said this to him before, and Sheila, I might have mentioned it to you, but, there is no work right now. There is no work. I mean, when we're recording this, The Mandalorian and Grogu has come out. And why the hell am I going there? Just go with me for a second. That was one of the few movies that shot in Los Angeles, that put people to work, that kept people employed. And actors need work. They need to get paid. They need healthcare. So I feel like this season we got some amazing, experienced, recognizable, or just great working actors who were willing to come in for one scene. Wow. And that's not always the case. It certainly wasn't the case at the end of the CBS run. I do think that Criminal Minds was kind of looked down on at the end of the CBS run. But I believe, and maybe I just want to believe, but I do believe that evolution has raised the stock of Criminal Minds in general. I think it's known in acting circles as you can get something really good for your reel that will make casting agents feel something and go, hey, let's get that guy for this part on this show now. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be, working on a show shouldn't be this utilitarian, shouldn't be this cannibalistic, but it is sometimes. And to be able to provide that for a group of people, whether it's actors or crew members or whoever, we take that very seriously, and we always have. So in terms of guest stars, I think we got a just good acting across the board.
Well, I would be remiss, given, the profile, if we didn't follow up a little bit about Connor's story, asking one, what kind of accent can we expect from him this time?
I'm not allowed to say.
Okay, all right. And this is more of a production thing because, of course, sure, he was cast before. I mean, was this his next job after shooting Heated Rivalry?
It was, yeah. He did Heated Rivalry, and then I think he had a little bit of time off, and then he came to us, yeah.
Okay. And so my question is, obviously, Heated Rivalry took over the world last winter. I mean, it's incredible. I really enjoyed it. My question to you is, how did he wind up on the show? Like, how did you guys find him? How did your casting people say, this is the guy for this part?
So our casting director is April Webster, and the associate is Angela Young. And they do such amazing work. I mean, when our cast directs, that's the first thing they tell us is like, oh my God, the choices that we have for these parts are so good. And again, you're like, well, shouldn't that just be a given? You'd be surprised. People have different takes. People have different ideas. People see different people in one-person shows or improv shows, or a production of True West that's gone up, in the west side of Los Angeles. And April and Angela, they comb the town. I'm not kidding when I say that. Like they go everywhere. They look under every nook and cranny. I want to say, I believe for every speaking role, they are submitted over 100 actors from actors who have representation in Los Angeles for a one-line part, right? So they then become these like walking encyclopedias of, well, we can get this person for that role, we get this person for that, we can do this, or okay, we have to, if we're going to cast for this victim, but this victim is also married and has a kid, then we cast this person first, and then based on that person as an anchor, then we know what kind of husband we're looking for and what kind of child we're looking for. I mean, there's just it's like this, like, they're like these human Jenga tower machines where they always know how to find just the right block for just the right spot. With Connor, I don't know if they had seen Heated Rivalry. I'm sure they had his reel, and I'm sure Heated Rivalry was on the reel. Mm-hmm. I know that this part was so specific, especially in episode, I can't tell you what episode he's introduced in, especially in the episode where he's introduced. This is a minefield, you guys. This is so
absolutely
hard. Sorry.
It's okay. but this is, I know, but this is what I can say. I can say that the director who directed that episode, again, trying to be careful here, the director who directed that episode was given 6 or 7 choices for the part. Connor was one of those choices. And this director said, that's the guy. Like without a doubt, like that is the guy. He brings exactly the right energy, vulnerability to this role. He is the guy. And we said, great. And Connor popped so hard in this role that just like Zach, we're like, we can run with this. We can run with this. And, you know, it's one of the joys of being a showrunner is when you get to do that, when you get to find something like this, a talent, you know, and multiply by anything, multiply by writers, multiply by directors, multiply, you know, but whenever you get to see somebody and you just want to go let them cook, you're like, that's amazing. That's such a great feeling to be able to do that. So that's how we got him. I have to be super careful how I say it, what I say and how I say it, but that's as much as details I can go into right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, it really does seem like an amazingly serendipitous casting choice for you guys. Because, yeah, I mean, whether they had seen it or not, you guys, the director hadn't seen Heated Rivalry. You hadn't seen Heated Rivalry. So
that's right.
I mean, you picked this guy because he blew you away, and then he blew everybody away.
He did. He did.
He really did.
But he's not, I just want to stress this, he's not the only actor who did that. There were a couple other recurring characters that we found. They locked in, we locked in with them, and we found the character and the story together. Mm-hmm. And it was a great feeling. Connor was just the one who, because he's so good and because Heated Rivalry is so good, blew up after the fact. Yeah. And you know, if we get a bump this season in viewership, and a fraction of that bump stays with Criminal Minds because the Connor story bump, I mean, but they watch the show and they're like, hey, this is a pretty good show. Then it'll be the best thing ever. It'll be the best thing ever if we can just if we can get more eyeballs. Yes. Yeah. Sorry, Sheila, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, particularly in that correct demographic.
Yes.
Right. And yes, go ahead.
No, that was all really. I just keep saying, the more people you can get watching 1 or 2 episodes, and of course, the better it is. And they do tend to go back, and then you have to either talk them into going back and watching it right from the beginning, because I think we've been talking about, okay, all of your guest stars. And I don't know that we ever had, like, I have to go back, and we have never had any real criticism about casting. No.
Casting in the show has been fantastic right from the start.
Yeah, right from the start. We've never really, I can't think really, but the casting has always worked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've never had any complaint about that part of it at all. Yeah. You know, other things. Well, you listen to our podcast.
15 seasons of podcasts you can listen to about our other complaints. But
there are people who download 474 episodes
to find out. Yeah.
But right.
I mean, that tells
you have always had the best people working on the show. So it's no surprise that you managed to find another one of the best people.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you know, that is a credit to Erica Messer, who I've sung her praises before. But, you know, she creates an environment that is safe. And I've heard that again and again and again. Like, oh, Criminal Minds is like a good place to work. Not like meaning a happy place to work, a contented place to work. And that counts for a lot, frankly. Quality of life counts for a lot. Mm. But going back, Sheila, to what you're saying about demographic, the reason I think that viewership is really important this season is we have these new corporate overlords, and we sort of have to talk about that just for a second. You know, which is that Paramount has bought Warner Brothers, and so the whole portal of Paramount Plus, HBO Max, whatever that's going to be, is going to pardon the pun, it's going to evolve. It's going to change. And what kind of content are they going to want on that new streaming platform? Are they going to want a Criminal Minds? I would imagine absolutely, until you remember that our show is a co-production with Walt Disney and 20th Century Fox Studios. And so, the way vertical integration of business works is you create the content, you put the content on your pipeline, and you keep all the money. And Criminal Minds is that weird show that dances between the raindrops. And I don't know how, but we are a co-production between two financial behemoths. And both companies still want us. I'm hoping that if, coming back to the point about demographics, if our ratings go up, they will continue to still want us.
Right.
As opposed to if our ratings go down, then they don't want us. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, everybody.
To be back in the 70s when it was illegal for TV networks to own TV shows.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. Then they destroyed television in the 90s, and we're just living in the aftermath.
I'm not commenting, but
no, that's just my comment about antitrust law. That has nothing to do with you.
No. We do enough bitching about all of that sort of stuff.
About our antitrust law stuff.
Right.
Okay, so obviously that sounds incredible. We can't wait to see all of the guest stars this year. But other than the stuff you've already talked about, like, what part of this season kind of like were you the happiest to be working on? Like, what did part of it you're like, yeah, that went great?
A lot just went great this season. The first thing that I kind of want to highlight is the directing, and you guys, were kind enough to compliment the casting. I think that you have also picked up on how good the directing has been. And this season, it just was like a murderer's row of really, really good directors. Starting this season with one of our favorites, Doug Arniakowski. And he just knows how to get exactly the right pieces to put your heart in your throat. And again, you were like, that's the job. But a lot of directors don't know how to do that. A lot of directors are like, all right, here's the wide, here's the medium, here's the close up, we're moving on. Yeah. Doug knows how to get these pieces. He knows how to get, framing exactly right so that when you're in the editing room, you're like, holy crap, I didn't think that was going to go as well as it did. So much of what we do as we go from script to reality is we go, okay, we can't do that, cross it off. All right, let's do this version. We can't do that version, cross off, let's do this version. And so your grand scope, just gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you're shooting the episode for 8 days. Doug and pretty much all of our directors, but Doug kicks us off in a way where you go, oh, this show, it's bigger than I thought. It's like, and I'm talking about just the visual style of the show. I'm not talking about the storytelling. I'm talking about the visual style of the show. You just feel like you're seeing some stuff that you haven't seen before. And then he was followed by Anthony Vietro, who's who shot episodes. He's our director of photography, so he shot all the episodes, but he's the director for episode 2. And you would presume that the director of photography would have a great eye, and he does have a great eye. The episode looks great. But he was able to get these incredible performances out of the cast, his guest cast and our main cast, where I just thought to myself, I didn't know that a director of photography could be that good with actors. I didn't know. They're normally not. The director works with the actors, the DP works with the lights and the camera. And Anthony has he just has the skill. He's ambidextrous. He can do both. And then I also want to highlight Nelson McCormick, who is another one of our favorites. And he directed episode 5. And for the past 3 seasons, and this season, season 20, I mean, he has directed our bottle episodes. Now, the bottle episodes are the episodes that take place solely on our stages. Maybe we go out into our parking lot, but that's as far as we go. Like, we never jump off stage. We never go on location. We never go to a house. We never go to a city street. We stay in our self-contained bottle. Mm-hmm. And bottles are actually the hardest episode to direct, because you've got to find something with these sets, these stages, this world that the audience knows backwards and forwards, and make it interesting. And if you go back to episode 5 from last season, he directed that one, and that was a bottle. And that was the one where JJ and Ochoa are talking about a case, And it turns out that case, they're actually talking to Voight, who's been off screen the whole episode. If you remember that, if you guys remember that episode.
Of course.
That was a bottle episode. Now, it was on our stages. We recreated a living room on our stages, but you don't feel like, oh my God, they're on their stages, and you're not going to feel that with this one either. It's a puzzle box of a mystery that Sullivan Fitzgerald came up with. And he's like, I really want to do, it's the classic, like a guy dies in front of you. How did it happen? It's just that classic structure. And Sully really challenged himself to go beyond the Criminal Minds template of storytelling. And flashbacks and flash forwards. And I mean, really, really interesting stuff. And Nelson just seized it, because if you think about it from a directing standpoint, every time you're going back in time, you're coming back, you're going into the future, you're going into an unsub shot as the team goes, well, maybe it happened this way. Nelson can find some interesting way to transition from reality to the past, reality to fantasy. And the way you're guided as an audience member, visually, through sound, et cetera, it's magical. It's magical the way that he can do this. So now multiply that by that. I said 3, multiply that by 7 other directors, and you have a great season visually. The other thing I just want to say, especially after saying Voight doesn't have as big a role to play. What I want to be clear about is Voight doesn't dominate the way he dominated in season 16. But where we go with the character, where we go with Voight's character, he continues to bring a new life and a new energy to the show. And I know that there are fans on Reddit who don't like Voight. I know there are people who say you should have wrapped Voight up at the end of season 16 instead of keeping him around. But when you have a guy like Zach and he keeps elevating what you are writing, you want to keep him around and you want to write for him more, which is what I was saying about the other guest cast. And if there is ever a season that will convert the Voight doubters into Voight believers, I think it's this season. I think this is, I'm not, again, I can't say more than I've already said, but he plays a different role this season. I think he plays a more interesting role this season than he did in, I'll say 17 or 18. 16, it's hard to top who he was in 16. Yeah. But I think that this is the most integrated work that we've done with Voight. And then that leads me to the last thing that I'm super happy with, which is the ending of the season. And, last season you guys dinged us, I think correctly, for not laying the track of Uncle Cyrus replaced Voight with a young woman, that we kind of pulled that out in episode 10. Yeah. We didn't, we had a plan. It's just that the way that we did it was with masks. And so it felt like it came out of nowhere. But this season, I think we really build and we really culminate into an ending that pays off in the finale. We plant stuff in early episodes and we keep working with that stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you that we knew what the ending was and we worked backwards. That's not true. But what I can say is we knew where we wanted to go, and we didn't know exactly what the middle beats were. But we landed the plane exactly the way that we wanted to land the plane, so that I think it feels like it's all of a piece. And I'm super proud of that. And then after the main story is resolved, there is an epilogue. And I want you guys to remember, I want you to mark the time code on the recording, and I want you to come back to this when you watch episode 10, guys. All right. But there's one moment, and it's a cut. It's a single cut that we do. And it moves me more than anything we've done on the show. Oh, and it is, you just got to watch it. You just have to watch it, but it is, you when you see it, you'll know. And then fingers crossed, we can do a postmortem. We can come back and we can talk about it. And you can tell me what I did wrong, what I didn't, what I did right. But this one is like nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. So that's what I'm excited about.
All right. Okay. That sounds fantastic. I cannot wait to look for this thing. And as you know, we're very much Voight people. We've always been Voight people. We love them.
I respect that and appreciate it.
Yeah. And we, to the point where we don't quite understand the people who don't see what you're doing with this character, but takes all kinds, as long as they're watching the show. Right?
Exactly. Be mad, but keep watching.
Yes.
And okay, now here's another question. Considering how well so much of it went, Is there something that like you really wanted to do this season? An actor you wanted to work with, a scene you wanted to write, just something you wanted to do that for whatever reason it didn't manage to come together this year?
You know, there are the things that just like drive me crazy as a showrunner, and they're the same things that drive every showrunner crazy, which is you always wish you had more time, you always wish you had more money. I mean, that's just inevitable. And of course, really, I don't even need more money. I wish we had time to shoot the stuff that we want to shoot. But that's not how budgets work. You know, Disney and Paramount are very clear about this is how much money you have, this is how much time you have. You know, you can use it however you want. If you want to spend more on episode such and such, then that means you don't have as much to spend on episode such and such. So, you know, the challenge just becomes, okay, how do we devote our resources in a way that makes sense, especially when we're not entirely sure how much we're going to need for episode 9 and 10. You know, we know that we need to save our pennies for 9 and 10. So maybe, you know, we won't spend as much on episodes 6, 7, and 8, but you never quite know. The thing that drives me the craziest is when I see something on the page and I know that it's not going to work, and I want to say, let's just cut it now, and we don't. So I'll give you an example. In episode 9 this season, there's a chase scene. And as originally scripted, the chase scene was to take place outside at night. And due to scheduling purposes, we moved it during the day. Now, when you shoot something during the day, Dan, you know this, like there's nowhere to hide. Yeah. There's like night is so much more forgiving in terms of like a character ducking behind something and looking over and seeing the bad guy, or the bad guy seeing the good guy, or whatever. And, you know, during the day, as an audience, you watch it and you're like, he's right over there. That's where he's hiding. How can you not see it? It's bright light out. How can you not? So we shot this chase scene, and the director, Bethany Rooney, she did a great job. But she spent 4 hours of a 12-hour shooting day just getting all these pieces of the chase scene. And on an 8-day shoot, 4 hours of a 12-hour day is a long time. That's a long time. And when we saw it in her cut, it just didn't work. I talked about it with her. And so we lifted it. We just lifted it straight out. Just took it out. And editorially, you would never notice its absence as an audience member. You'll never notice it. But I look back at that script and I go, God, if I had cut that earlier, before we spent 4 hours of 4 hours of a day of 8 days of shooting, we could have taken those 4 hours and shot something else that we would have used, that would have ended up in the cut. So those are the kinds of, like, you know, do I wish we could get Felicity back? Of course I wish we could get Felicity back. Do I wish we could get Matthew back? Of course I wish we could get Matthew back. Like all of those things I really love. But when I think of the creative decisions that we made, the direction that we're going this season, it always comes down to time and money. I wish we had more time. I wish we had more money.
Oh my God. All right. Now we're going to ask you to pick one thing. What is the thing you've hinted at some stuff, and if you've already said what it is, but what is the one thing you're most excited for people to see this year? Like, what is the one aspect of the show this year where you're like, people have, the minute you wrote it, the minute you shot it, the minute you saw the cover cut, what was the minute thing where you're like, yes, people need to see this?
All right, I'm going to cheat with this answer, because there's an episode this year that I can't wait for the two of you to watch. It has to do with Easter eggs. Okay. And anytime that we can bring back something that seemingly we tossed away, especially from the CBS run of the show, that gives me a secret thrill, right? So in season 17, we brought Rossi's love of video games back, you know, as a comment on how conspiracy thinking works. And I love that we can do that. So in episode 7, there is a big callback. It's such a big callback, it's actually its own story. And I am giggling to myself excited for you two to watch this episode. And again, like I was saying with the Alves story in episode 2, you might go, you fumbled it. You didn't. But I hope that you guys appreciate that we took the swing. Now, just so you don't get all up in your head, we didn't do this. we didn't make this decision, creative decision, because we're like, let's make Dan and Sheila happy. That's not what happened. We said if we tell this story, we can address this piece of Criminal Minds lore
Right.
that has been unaddressed.
Okay.
And so in the same way that I think I told you guys, like in season 6, Reed has headaches. What happens? I don't know. We hated that episode. Let's never talk about Reed's headaches again. and that always bothered me. And we got the maid story out of that, right?
Yeah.
This is on that level of we're taking lemons that you guys thought were rotten, and we made some very interesting lemonade out of it. Mm-hmm. And I am waiting with bated breath for the commentary on episode 7.
Oh my God. All right. I cannot wait. Oh, such a tease. I mean,
this is giving us a lot.
Oh.
I'm going to try and forget all of this.
I
know. Right?
I was legit worried about that because I feel like I am robbing some of the joy that you're going to have of watching these episodes.
No.
But I think it's going to be okay.
Well, I can't wait to find out if it's the thing I want most addressed, which is, hey, what did happen with that Jason from the black and white episode? You got this Jason running around killing people. And they just, I guess, was never going to talk about that again. And then
Nope.
I'm still mad that when Reed is doing his therapy and he has a fantasy about a Jason showing up and killing everybody at the office, you didn't make it be that guy.
No, I so wish we had. I so wish we had. But no, that is not the thing. That is not the thing.
I did. Don't worry. No one thinks that's the thing. That's a me thing. Don't worry. No one thinks that's a real thing. Okay. Now we're going to hit you with a surprise question. A question you have no idea about. You have no idea this is coming. Almost nobody does. Okay. You mentioned earlier that there was a prestige level that Criminal Minds hasn't had in the past. And I think that's true because it is the insane thing about being a Criminal Minds fan is everywhere I go, everyone I talk to loves Criminal Minds. I don't know anybody who doesn't watch Criminal Minds and love Criminal Minds. It is like the most widely popular show that is like everyone's guilty pleasure, right? And doesn't get talked about in public, but everybody's watching it and everybody loves it. And that's why it was so weird when it exploded on TikTok and people actually started talking about the show finally. Because we had a generation who had never learned to be ashamed of the things they watched, is my suspicion of what happened there. The reason I bring this up is, what is it like for you? Because Criminal Minds, from time to time, I don't think there's any shame in admitting, enjoys borrowing from other fiction to inspire your plot lines. I don't think anyone would argue with that, right?
Absolutely.
Twice in this past year, I've been watching watching a movie and being like, oh my God, I think they were watching Criminal Minds. Because you previously told me, you revealed on this podcast that you guys really loved the movie Barbarian and that influenced the Sin Eater episode from season 16.
That's right. 17, I think.
Sorry.
No, 16. You're right. It's 16. My bad.
Okay. And so I'm sitting down and I'm like, Barbarian, good movie. And we didn't have the nicest things to say about your Pied Piper episode. Pied Piper in Suburbia,
where the
kids are being hypnotized with ASMR. And then I'm sitting down, everyone's like, you got to see this movie, So I go down and I watch the movie Weapons. And I'm like, I think that man watched an episode of Criminal Minds.
No, keep going. I'm not commenting yet because I want to see if there's...
Because I watched that and I'm like, I think this man watched an episode of Criminal Minds, and I don't think he said, I'm going to do that episode of Criminal Minds, but I think your episode of television, in all likelihood, say, okay, what does the Pied Piper look like in Suburbia, and what could cause that, and so on and so forth. And it's like, because I hadn't seen the Pied Piper in Suburbia before your episode of Criminal Minds, and now there's a giant acclaimed horror movie using the exact same premise, honestly not that much longer afterwards. Likewise, I'm sitting here watching Scream 7, and half of the plot of Scream 7 is just going over the uncle stuff from Criminal Minds season 18. It's like, is this or is this not a deep fake of this old grizzled version of the guy coming back and talking to them? And spoiler alert for Scream 7, it turns out it's a lady obsessive acolyte doing it. Like, There was a,
Yeah, we
I'm
noticed.
just saying,
We noticed.
Okay, I'm glad you guys noticed. But how does it feel to see Criminal Minds, I think, more than it ever has, getting reflected in popular culture?
Well, they said, was it Bob Dylan who said, good artists borrow, great artists steal. So I have to say, I love Zach Kreger. I thought Weapons was brilliant.
Oh, it's great.
I have zero, if he was inspired by Bruce Zimmerman's episode of Criminal Minds, I would be thrilled. I'm sure he has 100 different inspirations, and really that's how it should be. I mean, we usually take a piece of something, and when we rip off, we take a piece of something and then we go, but now we're going to take it in this direction. So it doesn't feel like it's just a one-for-one story. Plagiarism is what I'm trying to say. So with Weapons, though, we definitely noticed it. We talked about it in the writers' room. You kind of view it as like, oh, I guess we're in the zeitgeist. I guess we're kind of in the way people talk and think about things that are scary. You're sort of in the current with it. And, with Scream 7, there's no way I can draw this without, it's a little bit of a reach, but like you think about what's in the air right now, and you have like the Epstein files, and you have like all these different stories of abuse, of kidnapping, of abduction. What's the worst fear? Somehow the fear, the stranger danger fear of child abduction, which I thought couldn't get worse in the 80s, I think has gotten worse. And so it's just there are these I cannot think of a better word than currents that you just pick up on, and then you go, oh, that's your version. I want to do my version now. The other thing that I think has happened, I mean, look, the other quote I was thinking of, you were framing that question, Dan, was, politicians, prostitutes, and Criminal Minds get more respectable with age. And I think that, we are now at that level. We're kind of like, there are people who don't know a world where Criminal Minds wasn't on television. I mean, my son was 3 years old when I started on the show. He's a freshman in college now. Erica titled her episode of season 20 of episode 1, 3 period 60 period 5 period, because it's the 365th episode.
Oh,
I mean, it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that we've done that many episodes. And not only, have we stolen from somewhere else, we've stolen from ourselves. I mean, you guys have dinged us for that. Like, this is Piranha's, the episode that was the Mitch Pileggi episode.
Mitch Pileggi episode, yeah.
So it how does it feel? It feels good, but it just feels like this is part of the creative conversation that we're all in together. And I'd rather be a part of the conversation than be ignored. And so to feel like we're being listened to or influential in some small way is a great feeling. And there's nothing better than when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, I love your show." Like, there's nothing, it's such a great feeling. And some small fraction of those, maybe the Connor Story fans who are going to show up, some small fraction of those fans are going to write the next generation of horror. Yeah. Right. And I think we hold a place in that long lineage, and it might be a place that's not as well regarded as other horror, as Weapons, which is winning Academy Awards. It might not be as acclaimed as American Horror Story, which always seems to get all the press and all the attention and all the guest stars and all the song needle drops that we can't afford. But we're there. We're in the conversation, and that's the part that it's why I do this, frankly. It's why I do this job, is that I get to be a part of that conversation.
That's fantastic. All right. Oh my God. See, you had no idea the question was coming. You still nailed it. So there you go.
Thank you.
All right. Final question. This is the big one, obviously, because you're shooting it right now. Get people psyched for Criminal Minds season 20. Why should people be unbelievably anxious for the next 13 months?
Oh boy. Okay. We have a story this season that is really, really compelling. And the way that we dodge and weave and then surprise you with where it's going is something that I think is going to be a blast for people. Now, again, I can't say more than that because I would have to tell you who's involved, and I can't reveal that right now.
Okay.
Again, if we can regroup after the 10 episodes, I can say more because then everything from season 19 will be clear, and I can get into a little bit more detail.
Believe me, we're making a note to ask you about that in 9 weeks. No,
good. Excellent.
Well, are you doing a 2 episode? Are you doing a 2 episode?
We are. I think the first 2 are dropping this week, I believe.
All right.
So instead of teasing you with stuff I'm not allowed to tease you with, I want to come back to something that I said earlier, which is about how good a show this is to work on. We are in the middle of shooting episode 1. We have scripts up to episode 8, which means episodes 9 and 10, which we have a pretty good sense of what we want our 2-part finale to be. That's all we have left to figure out.
Okay.
The show is such a well-oiled machine that everybody loves being here. Everybody loves working here. And as somebody who gets to run the writer's room with Chris Barber and with Erica, one of the things that I am really happy about is the way that we've been able to take younger writers and teach them how to be producers. Mm-hmm. So in season 16, we had a top heavy staff and a bottom heavy staff. We had 4 top level writers and 4 staff writers. And 3 of those staff writers started as assistants in various capacities in the CBS run of the show. And we bumped them up. They are all co-producers now as of season 4. They're co-producers. So they're slowly climbing the writing ladder.
Yeah.
In the process of those 4, one slowly left to with our blessing and our love to go work on another show. And so we still kept 3 of them. In the process, we then bumped 3 more assistants up to staff writer over the course of evolution. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got my foot in the door, was as an assistant. And then somebody saying, I like the cut of your jib. Why don't you pitch me something? That's how my wife, who's also a writer, frankly, a much better writer than I am, that's how she got her foot in the door. And as I said to you, earlier in this conversation, there's no work. That means that there's no opportunities. There's no opportunities for most executive producers to be able to do that. That is a big part of why we went on strike in 2023, was because these writing staffs were 2, maybe 3 people. And if you had more people, they had to leave before you even went into production, and they never got to produce their own episodes. All we've done is take these young green staff writers and guided them through prep of their episode, guided them through shootings, sat with them, or they sat with us on set, and they were part of every director conversation, and they were part of every meeting. And when you do that, you learn how to make television. And so again, it's not a spoiling anything, but to be on a show shooting season 20 and to look at, the kids, and they're now strong creative voices on the show, it makes me really, really happy that we were able to do that. Really, really happy that we were able to pay it forward in the way that it was paid forward to me. So that's what I want to talk about when I think about season 20.
Well, it is fantastic that you've managed to keep so much of the team together, from CBS, and having that hiatus and then coming back as a cable show, as a streaming show. But you managed to bring the people back, which happens so rarely. It's very impressive.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And so, all that's left to do is thank you so much for your time, and encourage everybody to watch the new season of Criminal Minds, which starts tomorrow when we post this. I know, it's very exciting. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's any questions you'd like us to pester Breen with when we come back after the season to talk to him again, drop us on profilingcriminalminds@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you're listening on an app, podcast, or watching on YouTube, hi, thanks, rate, review, and subscribe. That's how people find out about the show. We'll see you back here for more Criminal Minds on Friday after we've seen the episodes. But until then, we'll say that's right. Au revoir.
And have a good week.